Do you need help clearly communicating to your team members what is and is not acceptable on your team? If so, in today's video, I am going to share with you 6 of the techniques that I use to help me set expectations on teams. And if you don't know me, my name is Barika Andrews, and I have been working with teams for over 15 years in leadership capacities, and I've led more than 18 teams, and I'm actually in the process of working with a new team now. So we are setting those expectations because I want to ensure that we have a successful time working together. So I am setting these expectations so that they know what I expect and that they know what is going to be required of them. And you also want to stay tuned for the bonus because I am going to share with you what you should do if you are inheriting a team, meaning that the team was already put together, or maybe the team has been together for a while and you may have been the leader, but now you realize that you need to course correct in order to help get them on board to where you need them to be. So we're going to talk about what to do in that situation as well. All right, so for the first part of the video, we're going to kind of focus on what to do with a brand new team. However, you can use some of these techniques with existing teams, but really in the bonus is where I'm going to tell you what you need to know about working with an existing team. So the first and most important thing you're going to need to do is to keep the big picture inside of your mind. You have to know where you're going. In order to take any group to an expected end, to somewhere where you're hoping to go, you have to know the destination, right? We have to know the final destination. But once we are clear on that final destination, then it becomes much easier to get that group going there. But if you have a team that seems like they're kind of flipping and flopping and floundering, it may be that maybe they don't understand the expectation as far as where the team is going, or maybe they don't know how you're planning on helping them get there or how they're supposed to help work towards getting there as well. So the next thing that we need to do that's really important is we need to honestly evaluate the situation. We need to honestly evaluate where we are in conjunction to where that end goal is. And if we're way off track, then we may need to course correct. Now, again, if we're talking about a brand new existing team, we need to see what skill sets are there, what talent is there, what opportunities are already there for us that we can use to our advantage in order to help us meet that goal. And then we need to assess what do we need to get in place in order to get towards the goal. Now, we are going to talk about expectations, but we need to know these things before we even start communicating expectations to our team members, because we need to be clear on these things so that when we have those conversations with the team members, our conversations are direct, are deliberate, and are meaningful. And just keep in mind when we're assessing what's already going on with the team, we want to focus on what do we need to keep intact that is good, and then what do we need to get rid of or maybe try to stray away from or move away from in order to be successful. Now, the third step is we're going to have to develop a strategy to determine how are we going to get our team from where they are to where we need them to go. In this step, we need to evaluate kind of what are the missing elements that are going to be required. And this is where we're going to focus on setting the expectations. But we got to be clear on where we're going and where we're at before we can start setting expectations as to how we're going to get there. Here's one of the things that I'm very deliberate on that I don't really mention to the teams, but it's actually something that I am consciously doing is I am looking at what are our team norms and how are we going to develop the team norms and then getting buy-in from the team members on those team norms. So I am looking at, okay, what is acceptable when it comes to communicating with each other? What is acceptable when we have conflict or giving feedback or things of that nature? Because those things are important, because anytime you put a group of people together, you're eventually going to have some kind of conflict, some kind of miscommunication. So the earlier you can get ahead of that as to, okay, this is how we're going to communicate as a group. Feel free to send emails, feel free to have our morning chats or, whatever the situation is, however that looks for your team. If you have a morning meeting where you come together and just say, hey, these are what the goals are for today that we're going to be focusing on. And these are the assignments and developing them out. It just really depends on the makeup of your team. But however that communication is going to occur on an ongoing basis, you want to make sure that your team is aware of that so they know what is considered to be the norm. Should they be checking their email? Should they be checking instant messaging? Should they be checking their phones? Should they be checking text messages? Let them know what the normal means of communication is going to be with the team so that everyone's on the same page and then you get that buy-in, which is really, really, really important. And that's why it's important to also communicate those team norms. But when you do your assessment, you also want to know, do we as a team need to work on maybe professionalism? What is acceptable as far as, I like common courtesy. So I like to model common courtesy, and that's like saying good morning, good afternoon, good night. How are you doing? Please and thank you and showing respect. I really believe in modeling that. And I show a lot of respect for people by doing that proactively. And then typically it gets picked up on the team as well, because you as a leader, when you're showing that your expectation is environment of respect, then your team members will notice that, okay, you're being respectful. And that also heads off a lot of situations when you may have difficult team members or challenging team members, when you are proactively and upfront showing respect for everyone on the team and anyone in the company, then it shows them that, okay, everyone is expected to be respectful. I'm respectful to anyone, regardless of their position, regardless of even where they are in the company. And as a result, I'm expecting you as a member of my team to be respectful to me and to all of your other team members, because everyone on this team is important and everyone matters, including that employee that you're talking about. So that is setting an expectation as well. And so because I'm proactively doing that, and I'm not certain things I don't communicate, I model it and then I'll address it. I might say, have you ever seen me talk to someone in the company like that? And they might say, no, so then it gives them something to reflect back on so they can say, okay, well, maybe this was the norm where I came from, or maybe this was the norm of how I've been used to handling situations. But on this particular team and in this particular company, that's not a norm that is acceptable. So the expectation level has been set. Also, we want to look at, are they aware of what the bare minimum standards are? And we want to know, that they know what the bare minimum of what is acceptable is. And then, as they choose to go above and beyond that or to do less, then we have to address those things accordingly. And I know just for myself, when it came time for bonuses and things of that nature, I took into consideration those people who were doing above and beyond, because really your salary is the bare minimum, right? But when you go above and beyond, that's when you start looking at bonuses and stuff like that, or giving, those hardworking employees incentives. Okay. So I know it's kind of like a dirty word in this kind of new environment, I don't know. But it is what it is. If you own a business, are you going to pay people who are barely doing enough to get by more money, or, than really what's required if they're just doing what's required? Think about it. If you have your own business, how are you going to treat? And I think that sometimes people are forgetting. Anyway, I was one to get into you reap what you sow kind of thing, but I'm just going to stay out of that for right now. We're going to move on to the next one. Also, when it comes to setting expectations with our team members, we need to know that they are clear on what their roles are and what is entailed in their roles, because we want to ensure that they are doing what is required for their roles, right? And so we want to ensure that they are doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. Now, if they do something extra, that's different, but at a minimum, they should be doing definitely what is required of them. Also, one of the ways that helps me with setting expectations with the team members is by me being in a continual state of analysis and assessment. So I am assessing, what are we doing that is successful? And then what are we doing that we need to improve upon? And so I don't try to tackle every problem day one. That's going to be a huge, huge headache. But I am looking for, okay, what is the most immediate thing that needs to be addressed so that we can be successful as a group? So if that means putting things in order, helping to help get things organized so that everyone knows kind of what to do and where to go. I'm not talking about getting down into the details of like micromanaging. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about setting up overall systems so that workflows can happen the way that they need to. Then I'm going to go ahead and do that, right? And so as I'm doing these assessments, what I'm looking for is what is going well so I can celebrate that, because I want more of those things. And I want people to see more of what success looks like. So as you point out and say, hey, Johnny did this. He did such a great job at this. And, hey, Sarah did this and she did an amazing job. I'm so proud of her. Can we give her like a kudos? Can we give her a round of applause? She did a great job. Let's celebrate her success. Hey, as a group, we've done such an amazing job of meeting our goals this month. I'm so proud of us. I want you to know that you're doing a great job and it is showing, and I am super proud of you. And I'm being genuine as I'm giving these compliments. I don't believe in giving fluffy compliments. If you've seen any of my other videos, I am not a fluffy person. Like if I say something, it's something I genuinely mean. And that also helps add credibility to when I'm giving compliments out to my team members. And also when I'm giving correction, because they know that if I'm correcting you, it's not because I'm trying to be mean, I'm trying to be harsh. It's because I'm wanting to help you as an individual, or trying to help us as a group. Okay. So it's not to be mean or to nitpick or anything like that. And so when it comes to addressing different problems, then I am definitely going to address them. If it's a problem with an individual, I'm going to address that problem with the individual. This is a part of setting the expectations, right? And if there's a problem at the team level, then I'm going to address it with the team. Say, you know what? Hey, as a team, you know what? I noticed that we missed our last goal that we had planned on achieving, or we missed this deadline. And I want us to work together to see, identify what caused us to miss this deadline, and then to see how we can avoid missing this deadline in the future, right? So if it's a team level item, I'm probably going to bring it up in a team meeting, or, depending on the situation, It could be an email too, but if it's a problem that needs to be solved, then I need to be sure that everyone is on the same page and walking away with the same expectation and understanding that I have, then that might be a team meeting item. But if it's a one-on-one situation, then I'm just going to address it with that individual. So now I want to know, what have you done in the past to help set expectations with your team members? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious. Let me know what has been successful for you and maybe what you may have tried, but it didn't really work. All right, as a bonus, if you feel like your team has gotten completely out of control, or if you feel like you've lost control of what's going on with your team, I have some good news for you. A, sometimes this is redeemable. And see, I'm going to be honest, sometimes it's redeemable. Okay. So if it is redeemable, I'm going to talk about some ways that you can redeem the situation. And I'm going to also be brutally honest because sometimes it's not really redeemable. So then what do we do in that situation? So the good news is that many times a situation can get turned around. It's just going to take some intentionality from you. It's going to take some grit. It's going to take some patience. It's going to take being consistent. It's going to take having honest conversations with your team members. Say, you know what? I know we were working together during the pandemic and I kind of really didn't bother you guys when it came to certain parts of doing our work. But, I realize now that I need to help us all to get back on track. And, I take ownership for it. I kind of let some things slide that I normally wouldn't allow to slide. But now that we are here in 2023, we need to all ensure that we are headed in the same direction. So here are the things that are going to change, right? That's an example of how you can mention it with your team. And you see, at least my personality, I'm cool, calm, and collective. So that's just going to be the conversation, but it's also going to be the expectation. And remember, as leaders, we exude our confidence, right? So when you are a confident leader, it is what it is. When you say something, that is what it is. We can have some discussion as far as if employees need to understand something, or they're curious, or they're not sure why something is a way. That's fine. We can have a civil discussion about that. But at the end of the day, as a leader, when you say something, that's what it is. It is what it is, right? So now, being on the brutally honest part of it, sometimes we get to the point where a situation has gone so far off the rails where we need to make some tough decisions, and you have to decide what's right for you. And I'm going to list off some options, but you may even decide that maybe there's a different option. But I want you to do some soul searching and figure out what is best for you. So it could be maybe you need to get some professional intervention, and that could be bringing in someone who is a professional at developing teams and helping to rebuild the team to get it back up to where it needs to be. It's like breaking down the team and then breaking it back up into what it needs to be. It can also be a situation where you may need to get your leadership involved in it in order to get insights or strategies on how to help rebuild your team, right? Another strategy can be that maybe you have to decide to do what's best for the team. Is it going to be best for that team to actually have a new leader and start from scratch with a new leader, and for someone else to have a chance at getting that team where they need to be? The last thing I'm going to mention is it going to be better for you to maybe start with a new team from scratch in another environment, maybe in another department, maybe in another company? That's going to be for you to decide. But sometimes a team can be so far off the rails, or the situation can have gotten so out of hand that it's like, they need fresh blood in order for things to change. It is really that way sometimes. And I would be disingenuous if I didn't share that with you. I can't say that 100% of the times. Every team is redeemable, because especially when you have toxic work environments or other situations that can occur, sometimes it is what it is. And you might be fighting an uphill battle that you may not be able to get course corrected. Because there's a saying that says familiarity breeds contempt. So sometimes people can become so familiar with the situation and the environment that has been created that it's super, super, super hard to change. But I don't want you to lose hope. So just know that, try your best to see if you can help get your team on track. Remember that example I just mentioned, and you're going to have to be consistent. So if your team has developed a lot of bad habits and now you're having to undevelop those bad habits, then you're going to have to be super consistent. You're going to have to communicate, and you're going to have to be consistent with your expectations. So if maybe people were allowed to come in later, come in whenever they wanted to, and now you need them to actually come in on time, a lot of times you're going to have to set an example. It can feel scary, but it actually corrects a lot of problems when you set an example. Like the first person who actually violates the rule, then you have to kind of, that's the person that ends up being the example. But then when your team sees that, oh crap, that person got written up, like she or he, my boss actually meant what they said. They said that we actually have to come to work on time, and then Bobby came in late on Tuesday, and Tuesday afternoon he was written up. Like, wow. Or, Tuesday morning he was written up. So a lot of times when you're you set the example, it helps get everyone else in alignment. So I could say more on that, but I'm going to stop there for now for this video. And if you are looking for more help as a leader, if you're not sure if you're on the right track, I do have a new leader checklist. Check it out. It is totally free, and it will also allow you to get access to my weekly email list that I send out to leaders on different tips and topics that have to deal with leadership. With that being said, make it a great day. Take care. Bye.